Yeah, George, what year did you graduate from Pace Jackson?
I graduated from Page Jackson in 1953. I never forget that. Um, I graduated from, and I worked for Bill Hennessy at the garage at that time. And I never forget Donald Taylor and Shirley Taylor, the guys just came back from World War, from Korea War, and they grabbed me and said, "You're gonna go to college with us." They were going to night school, you know. And so they took me to college. It wasn't for those guys, I was never going to college. You know, it's really amazing. And here they was just a little bit older than I was.
What college they take you?
Took them to store college.
Huh?
Haven't done store college, you know, and I was way over my head. I wasn't that smart. But they really picked me up in the afternoon, brought me back at night, and just like I was a baby did. And it wasn't them, I was never going to college. But the funny thing about it, around November, I decided I want to go into the service. So I went into the service. Because, you know, Jim, we was in the Boy Scouts, you know, 12 had Troop
Yeah.
31. And the military, man, was just like the Boy Scouts to me. I really liked running around. I was just 18 years old, I think. Running around the hills and basic training. You know, lots of people didn't like it, but I really liked it. And I really thought I would make a career of the Army because it was so good. You know, I was a wireman, did radio work, and went to Germany. And the funny thing, when I was over in Germany, I was stationed in Munich. And then they had this special assignment. They needed someone to go to Dachau. It used to be the concentration camp where they exterminated lots of the Jewish people. They didn't want someone to go there to be a prison sergeant. I was a sergeant at that time. And they had about maybe 100 American prisoners there. This concentration camp was used as American prison. So here I was there for 6 months as a prison sergeant, run the prison. They had a commanding officer there, but I was just the highest NCO there. And it was really amazing. I guess I could still see the walls out there where you could see blood stain where they shot people. The ovens were still there. And I guess also they had this one room like a museum, and you could really see lampshades. And you could see tattoos where they really did it. It's, you know, people don't realize what really took place. And I guess it didn't really focus on me very much then because I was just 18, about 19 years old then. But yeah, I recall that. And I was going to stay in the service. Had every intention. A matter of fact, I did. I extended for 6 months, and then I thought I would re-enlist for maybe 3 years, maybe make a career out of it. But you know, over in Germany, there is no black females. So if you dated one, it has to be a white female. So I was more or less maybe called dating when I was just white female. She came to the base and picked me up. I never forget that. And I guess the lieutenant or the company commander saw her there to pick me up because she had a car. And then we getting ready to go out on the bivouac in a couple of weeks after that. And I was over in the motor pool getting my vehicle together. I was more or less in charge of this group that had the wires and everything. I was the sergeant there in charge of it. And I wasn't there that morning when they had the, maybe not the roll call, but give out orders what to do and what not to do. And I understand that they said that no one was allowed to go to the PX that day. I didn't know this. So about 12 o'clock, I guess, I went over to the PX, and me and a couple of my other fellows, and it just so happened that the lieutenant saw me there and ordered me back to the camp. I didn't know what was going on, and he accused me of violating order. And I said, "What order?" He said, "You know, you're not nowhere allowed over." I said, "I didn't know it because I wasn't there when they said it." Well, we went on the bivouac for about a week and came back. And next thing you knew, and I was a staff sergeant, E5. They gave me an Article 15, which is something like a summary court martial. And so they bused me from a sergeant down to a corporal. Now, at that time, they had what they call a specialist, E5, E3, and E4. And a specialist is not a non-commissioned officer. But they busted me down to a corporal, which I was still a non-commissioned officer. So I was still able to go to the NCO club. And so after that experience, I decided that, you know, I just can't stay in the Army no more.
You think it had to do because of you?
It was definitely because of race. Even though I enjoyed it, but there was lots of racism, and even in the early years, I can recall, I always got the dirty details, and that was cleaning out the grease trap. Most fellas got the grease trap maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, but almost every week I had the dirty grease trap. The grease trap. You ever worked on 'em? You taught it?
No.
That's right. In the kitchen, all the water and stuff go down this trap, and the greasy on the top. And so therefore, you got to go down there and
Right.
scrape this grease out and clean it. Always had that dirty detail, and I also had the garbage detail with the truck. And there's only two of us blacks in my group, and we always got the dirty work. And it's a funny thing. You mentioned about racism in the service. I never forget over in Germany. There are a few of us blacks in our group, but one of my best friends was a guy named Joe White. He's a white guy from out in Oklahoma, and we got along real well together. And but when we go into town at night to Germany, there's the black section of town and the white section of town. And so we go back home on the same bus and everything. I went back to my dorm, went back to the barracks. I went to bed, I guess, about maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. About 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up. There was a blanket over me. 4 or 5 guys ran there beat me. 4 or 5 guys beat me. And they were fellas in my own dorm, in the home barracks. I could hear the voices, and it seemed like I heard Joe's voice also. And I knew good and well, I just stood there and took the beating. Nothing I could do. And I guess the bad thing about it, I couldn't report it to nobody. Because I know if I reported to the commanding officer, the next night I'm going to get a worse beating, you know what I mean? And I often found, stuff in my foot locker and in bed that shouldn't be there. But, it was...
How many African Americans was in your company?
I never had over 3 or 4 at the most. And I guess also the fact that we always had to wait for our promotion. For example, you go from an E2 to an E3. A white person can go from an E2 to E3 in 4 months, but we always had to wait 6 months to go up to be a corporal. Maybe take us 8 months. We had to go maybe 10 months, and a sergeant, maybe 8 months. We had to take a year. I guess I was very lucky to get a sergeant, but I still should have had it. Oh God, at least 6 months before I got it.